Class. Welcome to Win More Deals. As you guys know, it is super competitive out there right now. The market has been hot, hot, hot. So today's class is all about helping to increase your efficiency and hoping that you're going to close those deals with less work by getting kind of out of the box ideas on ways that we can really think to connect with our clients for strategies. So that's what we're going to be covering today. Our agenda, these are the four main areas, and then the fifth thing is a kind of a bonus. We're going to talk about other off-market, off-MLS areas to find more deals. The first 4 points are going to be all about strengthening our chances of winning the deal. So we're going to talk about how reputation matters. We're going to talk about how you can be prepared and contractual advantages, of course, as a broker. I'm a contract nerd. That's one of the things I love to do is really know the ins and outs of the contract. I feel very strongly that that's one of the absolute best ways that you as an agent can really help support your clients is by knowing those contracts extremely well. So you know the dates and deadlines and terms and can give them the best recommendations to consider. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about wrap it with a bow as some extra things that you could consider doing, again, situationally, that makes sense for you and your clients to continue. So just going to take a real quick moment so we get to know each other a little bit. I've got some familiar faces. We got a new face here. And we're going to pop to the Zoom folks as well. Just give a quick introduction of your name, maybe how long you've been in the business, and kind of your preferred territory or area that you like to serve, because I always like to connect people in class if there may be referral opportunities. So we have a really wide area of service that we cover. And so I always love to help connect because maybe you need to have a great referral partner in an area that you don't service. So without further ado, let's start in the back. That's you, Angie.
I am Andy DeLong. I've been with Keller Williams here for maybe it's coming up on 5 years.
Awesome.
And I was licensed. I got my license in 2001, so I've been part-time until 2006. Got out for a while. My territory is, western Wisconsin here, and I do probably half my deals in the Twin Cities as well. So
awesome. So dual licensed. Awesome. So we've got Andy DeLong. I'm just going to kind of paraphrase in case it's hard to pick up the audio for you folks on Zoom. Been with the company about 5 years, has moved from being part-time to full-time agent and services both Minnesota and Wisconsin. Awesome.
I'm Becca Whitus. I've been with Keller since Monday.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Newbie since Monday. Welcome.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
I'm with the Hergen Rother Group.
Cool.
And actually just this morning got my official license. They were a little behind, so just got the email. I'm all ready to go now.
Awesome.
And I have my license in Wisconsin, so just Wisconsin at this point.
Perfect. Awesome. So welcome, Becca, new to the company as of Monday with the Herg team and already plugging into training, which we love. So great way to get started.
Yeah.
Pop up to you.
I'm Dion Parnell, and you're newer than me, Becca. So I'm not the newest in the class. I got my license January 22nd. So fairly new, and I get to work under the mentorship of Sean here. I am only licensed in Wisconsin, and I don't know that I will get licensed. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I live in Amory, and I am very interested in doing any distance around Amory in western Wisconsin, all the way to Eau Claire and Menominee, because I have family there. So
okay, awesome.
And
well,
up
welcome.
to Osceola, because I'm very familiar with that. So
great. So we've got Dion, lives in Amory and open to a fairly wide coverage area. And a couple months in now, right? Yeah. So welcome, Dion.
I'm Sean German. I've been with Keller for 3 years. I had to think about when I got licensed. It's been a while. I'm duly licensed Minnesota and Wisconsin, and I have a large service area. I do service as far as Eau Claire, and then I go up past Osceola, St. Croix Falls area, and then I hit down by Prescott, Hastings, and then of course I've even hit Mankato and listened to Mankato and Owatonna and Faribault. So
awesome.
I have hit a large area in the Twin Cities. So
Great,
Big,
well,
they're pretty big
welcome.
area.
Welcome, Sean. Thanks for coming today.
Yeah.
So Sean, dual licensed agent, also a pretty wide service area, covering parts of Minnesota all the way to Mankato, and talking about in the Wisconsin side up north to Osceola. So lots of great referral opportunities and connections. Marnie, let's jump to you.
Hi, Marnie Blackman. I got my license last July, joined the firm in September, but haven't done much until the last week. I got an accepted offer and a listing, and now I got a referral from a guy, agent in Colorado. So I'll be showing houses to him on Monday. So kind of hitting the road running now.
Yeah, awesome.
I live in New Richmond and service all of this. I hope to get my Minnesota license in the next couple months.
Fantastic. Thank you. And you're coming through really loud and clear on the TV, Marnie, so I don't need to recap. Everyone can hear you. Okay, so awesome.
Great.
Welcome. And
Thanks.
Jana.
Hi, I'm Jana Krieger. I got my license in Wisconsin a few months ago, and I'm starting to take more of the classes and get more familiar. I'm hoping to start working on my Minnesota license pretty quickly, but I haven't started the class
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for plugging in
yet.
today, everyone. Thanks
And
for-
I can service from Eau Claire to Hudson.
From Eau Claire to Hudson. Got it. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys. Welcome all. For anyone who doesn't know me yet, I'm Brandi Gregory. I'm a broker and I support services out of our Keller Williams Realty Diversified and also help support your leadership team here. I work in collaboration, of course, with Matt, as Matt is your broker of record. So just helping to support and share some services and training across our sister market centers. So super excited to be here, and I expect this class to be really engaging. So be prepared to get called on or participate. I don't like to be just up here lecturing. This is really to help you learn from other experience in the room as well. So jumping right in, reputation, first thing, set the stage with a great reputation. So whether you're a brand new agent or you've been in the business a while, this is super important. And there's a lot of different ways we can do this. And the reason that this is like the first foundational piece is because it, I think, is easily overlooked. You know, this can be an emotional business for our clients. And sometimes as agents, we absorb those emotions if your client is very upset or very anxious or very nervous, right? So we have to do a lot of kind of mental fitness to help keep that bus, you know, on the straight and narrow and not go with the ups and downs as much. And why I'm bringing that up with reputation is because sometimes, you know, situations happen, maybe a deal falls apart, and you have to think about how are you coming across with your co-ops. You always want to maintain that professional veneer, even in those situations that aren't always the most fun to be in. Maintaining your professionalism, being courteous, being respectful. You know, I've heard very terrible stories about agents getting cussed out on the phone by other agents, and we don't ever want that to be any of our agents. We want our agents to be known. And keep in mind too, it affects the firm as well, right? Your name is tied. Keller Williams, you chose to join the #1 company in real estate. We have big expectations for that, maintaining that standard, right? That's a big advantage of you getting to come in and say, I'm an agent with Keller Williams. It means something. It means we have a great culture. It means that we uphold values of respecting other people. So that is as one foundational piece. Another way is great communication. I can tell you this, if you want to be successful in this business, you need to be a great communicator. And I mean, like, even when there's nothing to communicate. So what might that look like? Who can give me an example of, you know, when I say communicate when there's nothing to communicate? An example might be, hey, co-op agent, I just want to let you know I received your amendment. I've sent it out for signature. I don't have it back yet, but we are working on it and I'll get it back to you as soon as my seller completes it, right? Communicate with an update that you're working on it. When you get things, let them know you've received it, right? We get a lot of emails as realtors. So don't just make the assumptions that, you know, that they have gotten it or that you've gotten it. Send a quick email. It takes 2 seconds. Received, thank you. I'll present it and be back in touch, right? Simple as that will start to build your reputation. I can tell you without a doubt that there are many agents, and I've been fortunate enough to have that feedback myself, that when I have a deal with a client and we're competing, they'll say, you know, we had really similar offers and I really wanted to work with you again. because they know what they're getting, right? Like you want to establish that so that people know what they're going to get when they work with you on the other side of a deal. So that's extremely important. And then clean contracts. We're going to dig into that a lot more, but that is so important. Had a property went live over the weekend, 7 offers in 24 hours. Okay. I can tell you right now, it was pretty easy to cut some of them that were fringe, like fairly equivalent, just because I knew we'd have to kick it back and clean it up with an accountant anyway. So you can lose deals for your clients by not having a clean contract. Especially if you have an experienced co-op agent, because they're going to be very frustrated by that. So again, you have great resources here. If you need support, if you're a newer agent, you're writing that contract for the first time, your broker is always happy to review that. Obviously, you want to try to give a little bit of notice. I'm sending this over in 10 minutes. Can you look at it, right? Like we have classes we're teaching and things too. But if you plan ahead a little bit, hey, this is what we're planning to submit. If you could look at it before whatever, 3 o'clock today, I'd really appreciate it. Give me any insights, and then we can make sure you get a really clean contract. Had a new agent this weekend write a deal. The co-op agent, been in the business for a long time. They own their own family firm. Literally said to him, wow, you really wrote a clean contract. He said, well, yeah, I had my broker review it before I sent it over. And she was just blown away that as a new agent, that gave her confidence in his offer. Again, he was competing against, there were 3 offers on the table. So these are ways that I'm telling you from experience, you can win deals just by establishing your own reputation, by being someone who is responsive, who's courteous, and who is thorough by writing your clean contracts. All right, has anyone had any stories about this? Any deals that you've won, or any feedback you've had? Well, I shared a couple with you, so you got a few that you can go off of, but I promise that if you work on these things, you can be that person too, that gets that feedback that, Andy, we picked your deal because I really want to work with you, right? Because I know that you're going to be communicating with me, that you're going to communicate with your client, and even if it doesn't work out, we're going to have a good transaction together, right? So that's a good place to be. All right, next, prepare for success. So we want to make sure that you're doing all the things that can help get your offer chosen, right, to win the deal. So one way you can do that is by educating and preparing your clients. So what are some ways that we can prepare our clients? Any ideas, Sean?
Do your buyer representation agreement.
Yeah, oh, huge. Have your buyer representation agreement, right? So you've done a buyer consultation, so you know that buyer well, you know their needs, right? Because once you become their representative through a buyer agency, now you're their fiduciary, right? Meaning you have the responsibility to look out for their financial interests in this transaction. So part of that consult hopefully has included an update about the market condition, right? So you've explained to them, hey, Mr. Buyer and Mr. and Mrs. Buyers, you are telling me that you're looking for, $150,000 price point. You want at least a 2-bedroom with at least the 2-car garage, and so I just want you to be prepared in the town of whatever they're looking. This is how many like that have sold at that price point, so that you're setting an expectation of, right now inventory is super low. We might have only 2 homes in 6 months that fit that need. You want to make sure that expectation is established, because also if you don't say that and your buyer's like, gosh, is my agent doing anything? I've gotten one, property in a month, right? Well, that's not our fault. That's the inventory. But if you haven't set that tone with them and explained to them the market of the moment, you're already starting behind the ball with your client. So market of the moment is extremely important to explain, and the best place I think you can do that is in that buyer agency. So consultation, great point, Sean. Another thing,
Are
yeah.
you sharing your screen? 'Cause, I mean, I'm seeing
Yeah.
you, but are they seeing the whole?
Yep, it says I'm screen sharing.
Oh, okay.
Jana or Marnie, are you seeing my presentation?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, thanks
Yep,
for
I
checking.
can see it.
Okay, perfect. We just want to make sure everything's showing up good, because obviously I would be blocking the TV if you were trying to look at that screen. So, okay, so another way we can do that in talking about the market of the moment is preparing them for things like multiple counter offers, right? Multiple scenarios. Hey, it's not uncommon right now in this price range to see multiple offers within a very short period of time. I mean, the example I just gave you over the weekend is 24 hours of the first showing. We had 7 offers, right? So just let them know that this is the market right now. And then you can build their confidence by saying, we're going to talk about strategies that will help you consider ways that we can strengthen your offer and make it stand out against the other offers we may be competing with. Okay, so that's really important, explaining that up front and setting that tone. Some people are very afraid of that, and they say, well, I don't want to compete with anybody. And my thought on that is, well, the worst that can happen is you don't get it. But if you don't even try, you're definitely not going to get it. So, you know, if you want the house and it makes sense, whether we're competing or not, I think you put what you're comfortable with. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. We'll keep looking. But we don't want them to be afraid of it. And a lot of the best ways we can reduce the fear is by giving the information up front. All right, another way we can prepare for success. Any other ideas? I kind of have them cheat sheet up there for you.
Oh, I call the listing agent and find out if the seller has special requests, like a later move-in date, or what they're expecting to get out of the offer. Just
Yes.
asking as many questions as possible, because you don't know what they're allowed to disclose or not disclose until they disclose it.
Absolutely, Sean. Thank you. Call the listing agent, connect with the listing agent. Again, in the example over the weekend, as the listing agent, I had 1 in 7 offers connect with me to find out what's best for the seller. And they knew that there were multiple offers on the table. So I can tell you that most of the agents in our market don't do this. That's a way that you can establish. What else does that do? That helps set the tone, right? For the part we were just talking about. It shows that listing agent, I'm engaged, I'm knowledgeable, I want to write a competitive offer, I want to know what needs you can share with me about the seller, right? So that is huge. So connecting with the listing agent in advance. What are some of the things that we ask? Sean mentioned a couple. Anyone else have any ideas? Well,
Motivation.
yeah, oh, absolutely. If they're willing to share that, you can always ask the question, you know, are you able to share with me what the seller's plans are? You know, have they already identified their next property, and do they have a preferred closing date, right? Because we don't know if maybe they already have that date set, they already have an offer on another property, or maybe not. And don't make assumptions. A lot of people assume just the fastest closing date is what people want. That is not the case, especially in this market. Because if they haven't identified their property right now, and we all know that inventory is really low right now, they may be more comfortable having a longer period of time. And if your folks, that works for them, maybe they're renting, or maybe they're first-time home buyers and they're staying with family, so they have flexibility, absolutely find that out, because then you could give them that maybe 2 months closing time, and that could be the difference in you getting the deal, because the sellers are like, oh, I feel relieved to have, you know, more time to either get moved out or find my next place or whatever it could be. So that's a huge one. Any other preferences that they might be willing to share with you? You know, so some things that might come out of that are, you know, oh, well, they'd really like to keep the washer and dryer. We put it on there as included, but, you know, they really were kind of not wanting to leave it. You know, that might be something that you can negotiate and say, okay, hey, you said you had your washer and dryer that you can bring with you. Awesome. Do you mind if do you want to consider leaving that off the offer so that they could take theirs and you can bring yours in? Great. Again, you always, as the buyer agent, your duty is, of course, always to the client, your buyer, and making sure that they're comfortable with the terms. But these are ways that you can have conversations to find out what's a win for them that also ultimately helps them get the deal. So that's another great one. And then connecting with your affiliate partners. What are some affiliates that we might want to connect with, and why?
I don't care.
Yes, I want you to share.
Your lenders, because your lender partner should be able to call the listing agent and just egg on your buyers.
Yeah, your lender partner.
Thank you.
Sandra, welcome. Are you connecting with us, or I can hear your audio?
Yeah, I'm connecting with you.
Okay, perfect. Did you have something you wanted to share?
I just got on because I was delayed in getting back from a doctor's appointment.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Well, welcome. We're just talking about connecting with affiliate partners. Sean mentioned we can reach out to our lender partners. That's a great thing to connect with. As we know, we want to have already our pre-approval good to go, right? Before we're at the stage that we're writing the offer, that should already be done. But we might need to connect with them because maybe they've written it for a certain price and we're at a different price. And so we want them to adjust that. You can request also, guys, your lenders, you could have them write it for a specific property address without a price, or you can have them adjust the price, meaning like if they're approved for 200,000 and we're negotiating something at like 160, I may not want to show that 200,000. So then I can say, hey, just wanted to let you know, lender, here's the property that we're planning to write on, and we're planning to offer 162. Could you write it for that? Or maybe 165 or something that's a little closer, right? So that's a great way. Some other partners you can connect to would be your title company. So that could be something. Now that would be, especially if there's anything that was flagged, like maybe it disclosed in the condition report, which you've pulled in advance, right? That maybe there's an easement or a shared driveway agreement or something like that that you want to get more information about to make sure your buyer is comfortable, right? So that would be another example. So don't be afraid to connect with your affiliate partners. I'm always surprised at how often I hear people say that they haven't even talked to their buyer's lender. I mean, if you're not the one making the referral, like if your buyer comes to you with a lender, then you want to reach out right away, introduce yourself. Hey, Mr. Lender, we're working with the mutual client, the Johnsons. I'm super excited to help them find a home. This is all my contact information. If you need anything, thank you for providing them with the pre-approval letter. I'll be in touch when we find a property that they want to write on, right? So absolutely, remember, they are your partners working for your shared mutual client. So don't be afraid to reach out to them and they can actually help you. All right, moving along. Be a contract master. What are some ways that we can master our contracts or have contractual advantages when we are submitting offers? But not everyone at once. Throw me some things. I'm giving you some help. Pricing, thanks, Dion. Yes, all right. Price. Price is one way you can gain a competitive advantage, right? Of course. So that is definitely one way. Now, when we're looking at price for our clients, what should we be doing as the buyer agent? We should be running a CMA, a comparative market analysis. You want to give them your professional opinion about how this property is priced. Is it priced at market, above market, or below market? Hey, based on these comparables that you're going to go through with Mr. and Mrs. Jones, your buyer agents, or your buyers that you have buyer agency with, I think this property is priced really well, and I could definitely see it going in this market, if there's multiple offers, a little bit even over asking, right? I feel comfortable in this price range based on the data that an appraiser is also going to pull to support a purchase price, right? That's a conversation you can have. Or I've got a helping a buyer agent over the weekend as a broker, helping them talk through some things. And they said, look, I've got this relocation client, which has extra responsibilities because of what you have to do with relos. And they're new to the area and I feel like the property is overpriced. Well, show them the comparable data and you're going to share that with them. And then ultimately they're going to decide where they're comfortable paying. And then they'll have the appraisal, of course, as well, which we know we're preparing them that based on what we've found, we may come into an issue with the appraisal, but we'll see at the time. You got to go with what you're comfortable with. Here's the data. Again, give your clients the tools to empower them, right? It's not just me saying, I'm an experienced agent, take my word for it. It's me always saying, here's my opinion and here's why. Here's the data we're looking at together. How do you feel this home compares to what we're looking at, right? So you want to have them engaged in the process, right? So that's how you can work with price. Structure of the deal or financing, that's always something. We know we have lots of different loan programs we can use, right? So that's where going back to that affiliate partnership and saying, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Lender, I see that you've approved them for FHA and USDA. is there anything that you have any input on, for them that would be better? What's their preferred? What works better? Because remember, it's not our job to get into the financial details of our client. That's why they have a lender, right? So we're just there to help structure it in a way that makes the most sense for our client. And also, if we have some flexibility, we might find out that, oh, they could also go conventional and they'd get a better interest rate. They need this money down. Well, okay, maybe if it's not super competitive, we could talk about some closing credit would help with their money down, but we go conventional, right? Be aware, partner with your lenders too, guys, especially if you're a new agent on the call. Partner with them to find out more about the loan programs. Again, you're not going to be the expert or you're not going to be the one educating your clients, but for your own information, because you need to know things to look out for. So give me an example of what we might look out for example, with an FHA client.
The shape the house is in.
Condition is huge with FHA. Chip peeling paint, flagged right away on an appraisal, right? So we need to know when we look at that house, if our buyer says, this is the one, I want it. Okay, well, we've got FHA. I know that the condition here could be an issue, which also remember, the seller is going to look at that. And if they have a savvy seller agent evaluating offers, the listing agent, they also are going to probably say, well, we know this might come up on the appraisal, right? So then maybe we go back to that lender and that's where we say, is this the only option for them because they've identified a property that they love? I foresee some challenges having it get actually through the FHA appraisal process, right? And then that lender might say, oh yeah, no, they could also do conventional. They just want FHA because of whatever reason, right? So again, do not hesitate to talk to those lenders when you have representation, because that is you're mutually working together for the best interest of your client. So structure, financing, super, super important to check into, see what options you have. I recommend, again, picking a lender's brain, maybe take them to lunch or coffee, or even if it's just over the phone, schedule a time to connect on some of the nuances of the loan programs if you don't already know them, because that's a great way that you can help potentially propose other solutions. All right. Another way that you could be a contract master, get an advantage would be earnest money. So who has an idea about what is kind of the generally, I will say, rule of thumb that we see in our marketplace for earnest money? 1%. 1%. Thanks, Sean. Now, it is not a requirement, right? Earnest money is a negotiating point. It is not anything that says every buyer has to put X amount down. It is 100% up for negotiation. They could choose to put zero money down. I absolutely would not recommend that. And I will explain to them why and what the purpose of the earnest money is for. But just so you know, that is a very wide open range of what we can see. Generally, we do see 1% of the purchase price is what people will suggest. So in other words, if your client's making an offer on a $200,000 property, about $2,000 is probably the common earnest money amount we're going to see. Now, if your buyer is super comfortable with that property and they are able to do it, which is again where you could go back to the lender and say, hey, my buyer's talking about putting $4,000 earnest money down. I just want to make sure that that's okay. Remember, earnest money goes towards their purchase anyway. It's not extra money on top. So just have that conversation. The lender says, oh yeah, I don't see any issue. Fantastic. Okay. But again, make sure you're explaining what earnest money is and how it is used. I explain it as that's your skin in the game, right? So that's you telling the seller, I'm putting this much in escrow with wherever, the title company or the trust account, who's ever holding it, which is part of your contract. And so you explain to them that we have these following contingencies. If something were to happen with regards to these, we would request the earnest money back, but nothing is guaranteed, right? Earnest money disbursement still has to be agreed upon. However, the contingency is in place to help protect them, because if there were to be a dispute and it was like, say, for example, an appraisal came in low, the seller refused to cure to the appraised value, say, okay, we're going to renegotiate. If that doesn't work, the buyer's not comfortable paying above the appraised value, so we're going to send a cancellation mutual release and just direct the disbursement of earnest money back. Also for new agents on the call, if you're in that scenario with ever a cancellation mutual release, talk to your broker first, go to Matt, especially your first time. That is an extremely powerful document, and it really releases everybody's responsibilities and abilities to pursue under the default sections of the contract, meaning, suing for specific performance, for example. So you'd want to make sure that you're very clear with the client if you're going to use that document. what it is, what it means, and what happens when it's executed. All right, are we good on earnest money? Anybody have any stories about a time where you had a client put down a different earnest money or saw it? Yeah.
I actually have a story, and it's not earnest money so much, but when we sold our house, there were people with a variety of earnest money. But one of the things that really tugged at us that ended up being the offer that we accepted was someone who wrote a letter, like a personal letter. Their little family wants to live in our little house.
Yes.
And with all things being equal, we picked the little family that wants to live in our little house with a little picture.
I love it. I'm going to bookmark that. That's coming up. That's in the Wrap It with the Bow. That is absolutely a huge way we can gain an advantage.
Oh,
and it's
we got
also
our
not
house
done.
the same way as well. Like we sent the little letter and they're like, okay, all things being equal, we want your little family in our little house.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That is definitely a way that we can, that's a supplement that we can provide. Okay. One other thing is closing timeline. So again, I talked about that earlier when we talked about calling the list agent in advance and trying to get information about seller preferences. This is one of the things we want to ask them. One other really important things we want to ask on that call that I don't know if I said, but so I want to revisit it. Are there any other offers on the table? Right? Because my strategy for recommending to my clients is going to be different if I know out the gate we're competing, or if we're the only ones in and they don't have any other showings, and we might be able to negotiate some things a little bit more so, right? But if we already know out the gate we're competing, then it's like, let's just go to getting our best foot forward right away, right? So that is another thing that you can talk about and get insight onto the closing timeline. Again, please don't make the assumption that it's always the fastest close is what the seller wants or is most attractive. All sellers are different, just like all your buyers are different. Their situations, why they're selling is different, right? So sometimes it's an estate and they're like overwhelmed with all the stuff they have to do and they have to auction all the items. And, gosh, if they could have 10 weeks, they would be like, that would be amazing, right? And if that's a win for your buyer and that works, that very well could win you the deal alone just by having a preferred closing date that works for that seller. Okay, so that is a very huge one that, again, is overlooked often, but absolutely a way that we can gain an advantage. All right, any other thoughts on being a contract master? No, we're good. We covered most of the ways. Okay. And then again, just rehashing or reiterating from earlier is making sure your contracts are clean, right? Be clean with your contracts. And what I mean by that is, filling in, if it's an NA, like put NA for secondary, right? This is not a secondary, NA. I've acknowledged that I've discussed that with my client and the answer is it's not applicable. We're not asking for this. Radon, yep, they're not asking for radon, NA, right? So they know it's clear and then they're not going to say later, oh, could we get a radon test? We didn't realize we didn't check that, right? You want to be very clear. Some of the other things that they get kicked back for is if you have conflicting things in your offer, right? Or we had a cash offer come in, no proof of funds. Well, the offer does say they have 7 days, right? So it's not wrong that they didn't, but I can tell you that the seller was like, well, do they have the funds already or what's the situation? Or they have to get them from something? Are they selling another property and it closes in the next week and then they'll have the funds? So if you don't have it, what can we do? Communicate. We can say, hey, proof of funds will be provided on Monday, right? Turns out in this example, it was an insurance deal. They were getting the money. They just didn't have it yet. They had a letter from the insurance that it was coming. They were going to have it within a business day, right? So again, just making sure you're shoring up all of those loose ends and communicating all the time. All right, other ways that we can be a contract master. So what are some contingencies that we might, a buyer might choose to have? Home inspection. What are some other ones? Financing. Radon test.
Well, and septic.
Well and septic, if you're in the country and on well and septic. What else?
Home sale.
Yes,
Home
home sale
sale.
contingency. Thank you. Bump clause. Yes. Yeah, all of those, right? All of those. Now, here is the trick to it all, in my opinion. When you are the buyer agent, you want to look through the lens of the listing agent, okay? You want to help your buyer understand how the terms that they're putting are going to be perceived by that seller, right? Or that listing agent. Now, again, I want to be clear, your duty is always to that buyer if you're the buyer agent, right? So you're always going to work in their best interest. However, that doesn't mean that you're not going to give them advice about, okay, so you're asking for all of these contingencies, that's fine. If that's what you're comfortable with, that's exactly what we'll do. One thing that I like to explain with radon, for example, in a very competitive market, radon is one of those things where we have a pretty solid number of what it's going to cost to mitigate. In my market area, it's $800 for an average home. Now, if you have a 8,000 square foot home, it might be different, right? But your average 2,000 square foot home or so is going to be about $800. That's what goes for in our marketplace. Okay, you might be different over here, so make sure you know that number for you in the market that you operate. But I can give them information, because then what? It takes away the fear of the unknown. Well, if they have no basis, then they think, well, gosh, if there's radon, what's that mean? What has to happen for one? Okay, so you explain, well, they put in a mitigation system. It goes in the lowest level. So if you have a basement, it goes down there, they're going to drill in and they're going to create a vent system to essentially release the gas, because radon is odorless, colorless gas, right? Found in pockets in the earth. So you're going to give them the information to ease their mind and make them feel more comfortable. So when I explain to them, I say, especially if they have a family, look, I think getting a radon test is definitely something that you want to consider for your family, just for your own peace of mind, because you never know where it might be. And as an agent, right, we can't make any guarantees on neighborhoods or where that is found or not, because you don't know. So don't ever make any statements about that, by the way, like, oh, I've never seen it in this area. That doesn't matter. Don't make that statement. Okay, you're putting yourself at a liability. So you have that. So then you can reduce their fear by explaining, in our area for an average size home, it's $799 to mitigate a system. And then, like I said, you explain what that looks like. So then they say, okay, well, am I willing to do a radon test on my own after closing and know that I'm risking I might have to pay out of pocket up to around $800 for an average home? I'm probably okay with that. And they might remove that contingency, right? And that's going to make what? Their offer look stronger to the seller, because how does a seller perceive contingencies?
Money.
Money, right? One more roadblock, right? One more reason the buyer might get out of the deal or might renegotiate something. Every contingency you have in there from the seller's point of view is like a potential roadblock or a potential renegotiation point. Okay, so again, always want to make sure you're protecting and doing what your buyer wants and they're comfortable with, but you want to explain to them that. And a lot of times when I explain that, they'll say, okay, I'd like to do a radon, but I want to do it later. Or they might say, instead of making a contingent on a radon inspection, we're not going to be contingent on it, but we might ask the seller permission to conduct one for informational purposes. And then we're saying right in the offer, hey, if it's high, we're willing to mitigate it, but we still want to know. And we always have to have permissions to do any testing, right? Yes. Any testing has to have permissions, seller consent. We do that in the offer. Okay, so that is another area or another way that you can have that conversation. Now, just to dovetail off that, a preferred, one of our home inspectors that's on our recommendation list, how many recommendations do you give out, by the way? 3, right? At least 3. You never want to be accused of steering someone to a specific provider. And obviously you always make the disclaimer, you're welcome to choose any person. If you have a relationship with a home inspector or something, by all means, use them. Here are 3 that my clients have had a good experience with. If you don't know someone, I recommend you give one of them a call, right? That's how you do your referral to a different home inspector or could be a lender in that case too, right? One of my guys on that list has a deal that he will offer the clients the same deal. So a lot of inspectors will bundle, right? If you do a home inspection and radon, it's this price versus a standalone radon and a standalone inspection. So he will offer them that same deal that, look, if you don't do the radon now, but you want me to come back after closing, I will give it to you for that same price, right? So that might be another thing you can talk with some of your preferred referral partners there and see, did they do anything like that, right? Because again, then my client wins, they still feel comfortable, cost-wise it's the same. If they're, again, in this example, comfortable with the risk of having to pay the mitigation out of pocket instead of getting to negotiate it, right? All right. Any other thoughts on contingencies? No? Okay, differences in appraised value. So that's another thing, right? We're in a peak market right now where things are going super high. And so you want to be going back to that CMA. And that's another advantage that you might choose to put in there. If your buyer is willing to pay above, that might be something that you communicate, right? Again, it's not recommended, but it's just another way that you could have a conversation with your client. All right, escalation clause. Who on the call is, or in the class is familiar with an escalation? Couple, awesome. Who, have you guys used it effectively?
It was used on us,
Okay,
like, yeah,
so Dion was a seller and you received an offer?
with an, and that
With
was
an
the one we
escalation.
picked.
And you
I was
picked
like,
it.
That was fabulous. It
Yes.
was smart.
Fantastic. So just real quick, because escalation clause can be its an entire class in itself, but just for if you're not familiar with it, I want to make sure you understand and know where to find the resource on it. So escalation clause is essentially language in the contract that says if you receive another bona fide offer up to the net price, and it's important that you put net because the other offer might ask for like a seller concession or something, right? We automatically, our offer is willing to go up to say $1,000 over that next best price, up to X cap, right? So if we go in at 100, we're willing to escalate by $1,000 over up to 110. There's very specific language you want to use, and I want you to pull that directly from the WRA. If you go on the WRA, which is a resource you all have access to as realtors, you can just Google in their legal hot tips escalation clause, or send your broker a message, and he can give you the legal hot sheet on it. Has the language, you literally copy and paste it out and plug in the numbers. Okay, so it's very easy to use. Another tip with escalation clauses, if you use them, I always recommend send that legal update with it to the agent, but you have to do it with finesse because you don't want to bruise an ego, right? So you want to say, hey, listing agent Susie, I just wanted to let you know I do have an escalation clause in here. I've included the guidance from Legal Hotline that I find might be helpful for you, for your seller to understand how it works. Because otherwise, you know, I've had people that, oh yeah, I know what an escalation clause is. They have no idea. They don't know because they're not well trained on, right? Keller Williams does an amazing job training our agents on this topic. Like I said, we have a specific class that is in detail about it. Most agents you will encounter in our marketplace probably have never even heard of it. So by sending it as an attachment where it's coming right from the legal hotline, it makes it very clear that this isn't something you made up, right? This is a legit strategy. And it also helps take the pressure off where they don't feel like, you know, they don't know something, right? You're just saying this is a great resource to help explain it to your seller or to help your seller understand it.
I have always just put the language in the offer, but do you suggest putting it as an addendum?
Either way, it's not
So that
incorrect.
it looks
I
not
like
so
to keep it.
cluttered in the
I
added
personally,
section?
no, I personally do put it in the additional provisions. The reason why is, here's another example. I have a lot of broker stories. That's an advantage of being a broker is I get to hear about all these things that happen. Had a call yesterday, an agent used an escalation clause. They did it as an addenda, like you said. The other agent didn't even get down that far. They just saw like the condition report and all the other standard stuff. And they're like, oh, whatever. And so when they called to talk about it and he brought up about the escalation clause, she's like, oh, I didn't even see that. And he said, well, it's attached. It's addenda 1, you know? And so she hadn't even looked that far. And this was a very experienced agent from a team out of the cities that you probably encounter in this marketplace. So be just, again, that's where the communication comes in. But back to your point, Sean, either way is correct. But my personal choice is I put it right in the additional provisions. Unless for some reason I have other additional provisions and I just don't have room because it is a wordy chunk.
So would you put addenda, the C attached, that just the stuff from the WWRA?
I wouldn't put the WRA saying as in the offer as an addenda because that's just a supplement. That's not part of the offer. I would have that referenced in the email. I've attached the write-up from the WRA to help you know, your seller understand the ins and outs of an escalation clause.
Yeah, I mean, I've used them with success, but I've never
Yes.
attached it because I usually contact the agent and ask if they know how to present those. And
Yes.
yeah, you don't want them to feel bad, but a lot of them are like, no, I don't really work with these very often. I'm like, why wouldn't you?
Right. A lot of them
They're
don't. And
such a wild card.
And keep in mind, not everyone is as open-minded as we'd like to be here at Keller Williams to learn new things like that. So we had another story from an agent over the weekend that I was helping with. They had an escalation clause and the agent countered back at less than what they're willing to escalate for. And we're like, well, if you had the other offers that you're saying you have, you would just accept because then it locks us in at that price. You send the amendment for the terms, right?
Mhm.
And they just literally weren't comfortable or didn't want to deal with the extra step involved. And so they countered it out, and the agent still got the deal in the end, but you want to be careful. So again, escalation clauses can be a fantastic strategy, but you also have to know that not everyone is very proficient with them. And so it can also be a roadblock that way. All right, another idea is a rent back option. So I'm bringing this up again because the market of the moment, that's part of that call with the listing agent. You know, can you share with me what are the seller's plans? Are they moving? You know, have they already identified their next home? And if they haven't, they might be really stressed. And so you might say, well, hey, my buyers currently have a month-to-month lease, so their landlord said that they would be very flexible with them. If we needed to do some kind of a rent back arrangement, we're open to that conversation, right? Now, again, if you get into these conversations and it's your first time, please go to your broker, go to Matt, get some support on it, because again, we want to make sure we're doing them correctly. I would recommend an addendum O for most of those cases. So again, you just want to make sure you're getting the support to navigate it in an appropriate way. All right, contract ninja master. Everyone's going to be masters of their contracts, right? All right, moving on. Wrap it with a bow. So these are some above and beyond strategies and techniques that you can choose to employ that might make the difference. And Dion already shared the first one. I call them love letters. Again, this is not something that everyone maybe want to do. I had a buyer that I had said, hey, you're competing, would you like to include any little letter from your family about why you like the home or why it's a great fit for you? And he's like, I'm a math teacher, like I'm a numbers guy. That's not my thing, no. And okay, no problem. So not everyone's gonna want to, not everyone is a fit for, but it is one thing that you could mention to them. And I will tell you, in my experience on the listing agent side, I've seen it make a difference time and time again. There's another story as a listing agent, had multiple offers on a deal, cash, right? Cash is usually king. Price wise, everything equal, only cash with no appraisal contingency, no financing contingency. And that seller literally like almost, I'm talking like came down to the wire, almost went with the other deal just because they knew a little bit about that other couple. And they didn't even write the love letter. The agent wrote, the buyers do not want to miss this one. She loves it. Let me know if there's anything else we need to do. And like just shared some information about their enthusiasm and excitement for the property. So they didn't even have the actual love letter. And that made a huge difference to the seller. And then here come to find out that the cash buyer had a story that would have made a huge difference. That would have been a no-brainer for the seller to go with that one anyway. And that agent never even shared that until after they got the deal. And I was like, and then I share it with the seller and they were like, oh, and they were like kind of relieved that they made that choice because then they felt good about it. But again, these are things that are outside the norm, that are ways to create emotional connection to your client. It's not just necessarily about all the paper terms. And remember, price is not everything, okay? Especially I found with some of my elderly clients, they've been in the home for 40 years, they raised their family there. They're happy getting a certain price. They're already getting more in this market than they ever thought they would get. And I've seen them say, you know what, I just really bonded with that family. Like that letter that they wrote, I'm okay with that. It's a couple thousand less, whatever. That's the one I want to go with. I've seen it happen. So again, don't make assumptions, or don't let your assumptions get in the way that it's always price or it's always, the closing date. You got to have a comprehensive viewpoint on these things. All right. Yeah.
Does Minnesota, Wisconsin have parameters around love letters sent to sellers?
Did they have?
What is included or not supposed to be included in those letters?
So
Some states do.
Okay, so great distinction. I am broker for Wisconsin, not Minnesota. So I'm glad you brought that up, because if I say anything that is not compliant with, like if Minnesota has a law, you got to talk to Matt about it. Because I'm not a Minnesota broker. But for Wisconsin side, your buyer can submit, and just give information. Typically what I mean by love letter is it's, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, thank you so much for allowing us to go through your property today and the showing. We found that we absolutely think this is the right home for our family. We've been looking at several homes in the area, and I love, blah, blah, blah. I work from home, so I love that it has an office, or, the bonus room upstairs would be a perfect playroom, or, whatever they want to share. Again, if your clients are writing this, so again, with confidentiality and information and stuff like that, you want to make sure that that's stuff that it's coming from them, not you as the agent, right? And then that's kind of what it looks like just kind of a little bit about their family. Sometimes they'll include a photo, sometimes they don't. Again, doesn't matter, whatever they're comfortable with. That can be an
Yeah,
option.
we included a photo.
So
And-
Dion's story,
And we actually ended up going with the photo family versus there were two that were at the same price point, and the second one dropped their home sale contingency, and we still stayed with the little family because we wanted.
So
we
you
know our
stuck with the one that had a
neighbors,
home sale
we know-
contingency
Yeah.
because of the letter.
Because we know our neighbors, we love our neighbors.
Yeah.
We want a family living there versus.
Yeah. Maybe an investor or someone else that's, has other plans for the
and it
property.
was
You never know.
equal, Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the picture I think does make a big difference.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because they see, oh, this is the family that's gonna be living there, and then you have the emotional pull.
Yes.
Because we put even an offer lower, and we got the offer saying, well, this is the offer we can make. And this is our little family. making
Yeah,
the offer.
right. No, I love it. Thank you for sharing. So Dion shared a couple stories here about where they, as the sellers, chose an offer that even had more contingencies than all other parts fairly equal offer because of the letter that they got. They
And
felt that
sounded
connection.
Like they so love the house.
Yes,
that
it makes
even
a
if the
difference.
Bumps in the journey, and there were bumps in the journey, and they still wanted the house, so you can read that too,
Yeah.
as a seller, they really, really want.
Absolutely. Yep. And then Diona shared another successful story where you were the buyer and you submitted a letter and won the deal. And it sounds like they attributed part of that to the letter that you wrote. Yeah. So guys, real life, this happens. It makes a difference. It can make a difference. Again, it may not be a fit for everyone. All your clients may not go for it or want to, and that's
Can you
fine.
help them write a letter?
Well,
As long as they're agreeing to it.
I let them craft a
Do
letter.
it?
I
Okay.
can help brainstorm verbally with them about things
Right.
that they might want to include,
Put in
or
it,
hey,
right.
you mentioned these features when we were going through. That might be something you want to pull in. But again, liability wise, I'm not going to write it. Like they're going to write it.
Could I send them the sample that we use?
I
and
don't
say,
see
well, this
why
is what
not.
we
Here's an
did?
example of what we did, as long as they're not just copying and changing it. But I think that would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, again, you're making a disclaimer. This is
Like,
just
this
an
is what we
example.
used, here's an
Mhm.
example.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Complete package. What do I think I mean by that? Who on the call has worked as a listing agent before, or and by on the call or on the class?
I'm guessing complete package is talking about having all the documents and then doing a letter or email to the agent regarding what's in it, the terms, kind of like a brief summary.
Yeah.
So when they pull it up and then calling or sending text, whatever it is, letting them know that you sent it and
Submitted
asked if they've received it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just simply meaning that when you send that over, you're sending it all in one, right? Again, story over the weekend as a listing agent, got 7 offers, and several of the agents came in like 3 emails. Oh, here's the pre-approval. Oh, here's the addenda S I forgot to get signed. Oh, here's this. And so then when you're trying to present, you're going in and downloading all these separate things, and it's a pain. So again, that right away is telling that listing agent, I'm not organized or whatever. Now, there might be times that happens, like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't realize the pre-approval wasn't attached. Here it is. Like, it's going to happen, right? But again, communicate about it. Don't just throw it over like that's your normal process. This is send 4 emails with your offer, right? So try to have it as complete as possible before you blast it off. Like Sean said, I like to give them a little summary of what I've got here. Also, yeah, call, text, whatever. When you email an offer to a listing agent, send a text and say, hey, just want to let you know I emailed you an offer. Please confirm receipt, right? That's a great thing, especially over the weekend. A lot of us are trying to not be tied to our emails constantly, right? You're maybe having some family time, which is great. So if someone shoots you a courtesy text and then you can just quick check and maybe at least know how much time you have for binding acceptance, okay, then you can carry on and, get it off to the seller and make your plan of, okay, we're going to connect Monday at, 9 a.m. or whatever, right? So that's a great thing. That goes with the next one, follow through, right? So again, if you are missing something, or if you say you're going to do something, do it, right? Following through is important. And then the last tip, systemize your processes, right? I'm a huge checklist person. So we at the brokerage give you guys checklists. Where can they be found? In the intranet, right? Intranet has your Keller Williams forms, includes a sale checklist and a listing checklist. Okay, so at least from a forms perspective, do I have everything I need, right? But I like to make my own checklist. Like, did I recommend they write a letter? Or did I make sure that I've included, their pre-approval or whatever, right? So just, I recommend that as you do it, you systematize, so that way you have as much ease as you move forward, and you're not every time trying to rack your brain to make sure you've included. The easier you can make it on yourself, the busier you get too, right? The more organized you will stay. So systemizing your processes is important. All right, we have one last slide here we're going to talk about, and then I will get you out of here on time. So opportunities are everywhere. We know right now that inventory is low on the MLS, right? So what are some other places that we might try to go to find deals for our clients? Anybody?
Facebook Marketplace.
Yes, Facebook Marketplace. Absolutely. Homes for sale groups. That's a great example. I don't even think I have that on there. Oh, I have social media on there. Yeah. Absolutely. Be checking. You know what a champion you're going to look like to your buyer if you go and bring them to a property that's not on the MLS?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. You're the best. And you're clearly out there working hard for them. It's not just an auto search on an auto email through the MLS, right? These are definitely places that you can go. You can work with for sale by owners and represent just the buyer. Give them a disclosure to customer. You want to have that conversation. Are you open to working with a real estate agent? I've got a buyer I think would be really interested in seeing your property. Okay. Yep. Yeah. We'd love to have you come show it. Okay. I let them know up front that I'm going to negotiate for their buyer's side of the commission to be paid. So that's not going to be a barrier, right? Now, again, if you're working for sale by owner, it's your first time writing an offer that way, definitely talk to your broker, because you have to make sure in that case you've accounted for your commission to be paid, because there's no offer of compensation through the MLS as normal. So this is the one example where we actually put commission in the offer, right? Normally we leave our commission terms completely out of the offer for anything on the MLS, because that's what we have the offer of compensation for, right? So again, first time doing anything like this, always go to your broker. That's what we're here to support you for. Okay, we want to make sure that you're protected. But yeah, for sale by owners can be a fantastic thing. You can get those just by being out driving around. I've been out, on my way somewhere, and throw her in reverse. I take a picture of the sign, and then I can call them later and just find out a little bit. Is there an offer already? Are they still taking showings? Are they willing to work with an agent? Right? All kinds of questions to find out if it could be a fit. And then again, I get to be the champion, go to my buyer. Hey, I found a property that I think you'd be interested in. And it's not on the MLS. So, there's no other offers at this time. Again, it might take some of that pressure with the competing market right now. Okay. Also, guys, statistically, for sale by owners get less money for their properties because they don't have a professional. So your buyers are positioning themselves. They might get a good deal because you're the only professional in the deal, right? So this also can be a great thing. On the similar note, expireds. Okay. Now, just as a blanket statement, make sure if you're calling people, you have to always check the do not call registry. Okay, the Can Spam Act and the Do Not Call Registry. There's links that are in your orientation handbook through your policy and procedures manual that Beth went through with you, or Matt covered with you. Just please make sure you reference those, because there are very hefty fines if you do call someone that's on a do not call list. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, absolutely, you could prospect expireds. Neighborhood letters. So again, that might be a case where your buyer has identified a very specific area that they really want to be in. Do a mailing to that area. Hey, I've got a qualified buyer that really would love to be in your neighborhood. If you or someone you know is interested in selling, please reach out to me. How awesome is that? You're not even asking necessarily for the listing. You're just trying to get an opportunity for your buyer, right? Which could result in a listing. Maybe you do it as a single party listing and you get a negotiated commission from both sides, right? Again, if this is all new to you, or if you're like, what is she talking about? Talk to your broker if you're in that situation, because we want to make sure you get the support and help to do it properly. But these are all great ideas for ways that you can find properties. We talked a little bit about social media. Sean said Facebook Marketplace is one example. Another is just putting out on Facebook a buyer need. Hey, I've got, a buyer looking for whatever, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home up to $200,000 in, Hudson, whatever. Who do you know that's looking to sell? Right? So you might find a connection there. Oh gosh, my cousin was just talking about maybe putting their house on the market. Here you get a hot lead that's not even on the market yet, right? Word of mouth, again, agents and community members. So, coming to trainings like this, hopefully you're starting to connect with more people at the market center. Coming to things like your team meeting, that's a great place to be around other agents. What have you got? What have you got coming up? Like, make sure we're not violating any clear cooperation laws, but we do have office exclusives that are allowed as well per clear cooperation. So again, getting the word of mouth, talking about buyer needs, wants, are all great ways that you can find deals that are not on the MLS. All right, well, I want to be respectful of your time and get you out of here. Before we close the class, do we have any questions? All right, then if not, I want 3 ahas, something that you learned today that you can implement in your business to help you close more deals.
Well, I had a kind of question, but maybe
Sure.
an aha. When you talked about title and your lender or your affiliates.
Yeah.
How much can title tell you without having to pay for the services of pulling documents? Like how much access do they have to give you that's free and available to agents?
In my experience, a lot. I mean, I've had title companies where, again, if I have a preferred company that I do a lot of business with, I mean, even if they don't get paid on the deal at all, or it doesn't come together, like they'll run preliminary work for you, or they'll do all kinds of things. So that's just a great thing to reach out to them and ask them about. But I've never had a title company say, I'm not going to give you that because we don't have the order. We don't, we're not going to get money on the deal.
Yeah,
Great
'cause I was
question.
curious, like, if it's a shared driveway, how much information are they gonna have or easement, like.
Yep. Well, another
I
thing
don't
too
know.
that you might say is, hey, I noticed that it has this, where can I get the resource? Is that recorded on the county, register of deeds? You can go down to the courthouse and get it yourself. If they're not able to share or pull something for you, that's another thing where they can help connect you to a resource to
So
help.
then you would have to send your client down for liability reasons. They would have to do that legwork.
Not necessarily, as long as you cite your source. Like if you got them information, let's say you got something from the Register of Deeds and you send it to your client and say, hey, this was provided by the Register of Deeds as a recorded easement on this property that you're looking at, you're protected. You just are not saying that I, Sean, real estate agent, am certifying this information. You're saying this is what I've pulled from public record that's accessible and provided by wherever your source. Yeah,
Okay.
always citing your source.
I'm thinking of like lake lots and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
some of that stuff, like the buyers have to go look at that. If they're gonna build on it, they have to do all that legwork.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if there's a line you don't wanna be crossing with some of that, so.
Yeah, well, and that's a great example. If you're talking about like build permits or things like that, yeah, I'm gonna ask my client to go do it because I don't want to, I'm gonna help connect them to the resources. Here's the, if it's a county zoning person you need to talk to or whatever, here's the resource, but I'm not gonna get in the middle and middleman it. No, great distinction. Yeah. All right. Give me another aha, something that you took away today that can help you be more successful in your business.
Have your broker look it over first.
Yeah, sure,
Go to
absolutely.
your broker.
Yeah,
Hey,
your
you know what?
broker
You
is
should
here.
Talk to your broker about that.
You should talk to your broker if you need some support. Absolutely. Good.
Escalation clauses, I just heard my team talking about them today, so it's good to know there's a class here on it and they aren't as well known as.
Yes,
maybe
and if you don't, if you want the information before you go to the class, go to the WRA, Google on their search, the escalation clause, pull that reference or ask Matt for it. He can send it. I'm sure he has it as a shortcut. I know I do. And then review it and then just go back with what questions you have after you've read it. Because that resource is very detailed. It is really helpful at explaining how it works, what the parameters are. Yeah, great one. All right, one more aha, and then we'll break for the class. How about someone on Zoom? Something you took away that can help you win more deals.
I liked having the mailing in the neighborhood if they want a specific neighborhood. I liked that. Just I never even had.
Yeah, thanks, Jana. That's a great aha. Absolutely. You can, there's nothing stopping you from getting out there and trying to connect and find opportunities for your client that aren't already on market. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming to Win More Deals today. I appreciate it. I hope you found it to be valuable. And I hope that you get some competitive edges to put into your offers. For anyone that's part of our foundations class, we are going to be starting in at 1:15 for our scenario review. So I'll probably just leave this quick Zoom up. I'm just going to take a quick break here while we get reset. So if you're on that and you want to stay on, great. And for everyone else, thank you so much again for attending today.
Thank you, Brandi.